Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jasodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tirapana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jasodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajagacharya Astatara Satasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premalandi. This evening I'd like to speak on a verse from Canto 3, if those of you that want to look it up, 3.2.3, Bhagavatam 3.2.3. It's a discussion between Uddhava and Vidura. Both Uddhava and Vidura are very elevated souls. Uddhava is like of age, like Uddhava's father, because Krishna and Uddhava were contemporaries, and Vidura was about the same age as his father, as Krishna's father, so like father-son kind of age difference. And both of them are recognized as very learned, very elevated souls. We're going to give a little background before we go to the third canto, just so it creates a nice feeling, a nice image, a nice backdrop to the exchange between the two. What you see on the screen here, just because I searched and couldn't find an image or a painting of Uddhava, but the description of Uddhava is very clear. He was nearly the same age as Krishna. His complexion was darkish like Krishna. In fact, some people that saw Uddhava, when the Brijvasis saw Uddhava, because Krishna had sent Uddhava, Krishna had sent Uddhava to go to Vrindavan with a message, specifically a message for the gopis. You know the pastime. But Uddhava was an intimate associate of Krishna, not in Vrindavan, but from the time he left Vrindavan and reached Mathura until the very end. He was the constant companion and cousin brother and intimate servant. So he had many understandings and insights into Krishna and Krishna's feelings and Krishna's emotions and Krishna. So he's a very good source of knowing of Krishna from Uddhava. So the painting is Krishna sent Uddhava because he had promised, and Krishna was feeling separation, and as they were feeling separation from him, so he sent a message to the gopis indicating when he would come back to Vrindavan, and Uddhava was the messenger. So this is a B.G. Sharma painting, classic B.G. Sharma painting, and Uddhava is there in front of the gopis and sharing Krishna's message, and in the background you see they're fainting, sort of going mad, and etc., etc. Here's a doctored up version. There's the message he's carrying. It's a little corruption of B.G. Sharma's work, carrying the message from Krishna to the gopis. And here's another image of Krishna's message to the gopis being carried by Uddhava. When they saw Uddhava, they thought it was Krishna. He's back, because he looks so much like him. And when they got closer, it wasn't Krishna. They were a little disappointed, because Uddhava is not Krishna. Krishna is unique. And after that exchange, you know what happened. Uddhava was so moved by the intensity of love, the quality and the intensity of love of the gopis, that he wanted the dust from their feet, but he knew they would be too shy to allow him to take dust from their feet. So then he prayed that he could become a blade of grass in Vrindavan, and maybe the gopis would trample on him and give some dust from their feet, trampling upon him as a blade of grass. And that became an important part of a scene after Krishna's departure. Uddhava appeared from a blade of grass and narrated all about Krishna to the queens who had heard about Krishna's pastimes, and now they're going to hear directly from one who took part in Krishna's pastimes with him. So that's a little bit about Uddhava, and a little bit more. Uddhava, being intimately associated with Krishna, he knew Krishna was going to leave. Krishna didn't say, but he knew. So he went to Krishna in Dwarka and pleaded with Krishna, "Take me with you. Please don't leave me behind." And he cried. And Krishna spoke the Uddhava Gita, very, very wonderful section, 11th canto Bhagavatam. And then Krishna gave Uddhava some service. "No, don't come with me. I have some service for you." This sometimes happened, when Lord Chaitanya would give some service, or Krishna would give some service. So his service was, go to the ashram of Narayan, because that's one place I didn't get to go during my pastime, so you go as my representative to Badrika Ashram and associate with the devotees there and carry my message to them. So he can't say no, because Krishna's giving him some service. And he started going, but he couldn't make it, and he started crying, and he ran back, because Krishna's going to leave the planet. And he found Krishna just before he left the planet, at Prabhas. And Maitreya happened to be there, and they had some second time around discussion. It's not Uddhava Gita discussion, it's another discussion. Then he reiterated, "I want you to go to the ashram of Narayan Rishi." And so he went, and Krishna left, never to be seen again during his manifest pastimes. So as he was making his journey towards Badrinath, the ashram, where the ashram of Narayan Rishi is, he stopped in Vrindavan. And when he stopped in Vrindavan, that's where Vidura met him. Now a little bit about Vidura, because just this is, the scene. Vidura meeting Uddhava. Uddhava knows Krishna inside out, as much as, like say, in Gaura Lila, two personalities were constant companions of Lord Chaitanya during the mature stage of his ecstasies of love of God. Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar. And they knew Lord Chaitanya inside and out. They were the most knowledgeable personalities. Besides what he did, the emotion and everything connected with him, they knew. So Uddhava was like that about Krishna. And he's on his way to carry out some service on behalf of Krishna, feeling separation from Krishna. And meanwhile, in Hastinapur, Vidura was one of three brothers, the younger of the three, and born of Vyasadeva as the father, and the maid servant of Ambika was the mother. Vidura was born of that combination, and because of that birth, he was considered not eligible for the royal family, but Vidura, was an emblem of virtue and wisdom. And he was respected by the eldest of the three brothers for that reason. He was always giving counsel to his elder brother. His brother wasn't always able to take his counsel, but Dhritarashtra recognized Vidura in that way. There's many, many, many passages and scenes in Mahabharata where he's giving counsel. He's not the king, he's giving counsel to the king because of his wisdom. And at a certain point in time, after, this is a little fast forward a whole bunch, after the Pandavas had been in exile and the 1 year incognito period, where the Pandavas were residing in the palace of King Virat, Yudhishthira knew the time was up. There's details and details, but their time of exile was up. And Yudhishthira knew that Duryodhana wouldn't relinquish the kingdom. He wouldn't want to become the emperor. He wanted their Indraprastha place in the Khandava forest. So knowing that Duryodhana wouldn't agree, Yudhishthira sent a message. From time to time, he would send messengers to Krishna, and Krishna would respond. So the message to Krishna was, please come and try to mediate a solution so that we don't have a war. Peaceful solution instead of war. So Krishna came as an envoy all the way from Dwarka to Hastinapur. It's a long journey, with ministers and an entourage that came with him. And there's a scene in Mahabharata where, knowing that he was coming, Duryodhana said, I'll put him in prison. And he said it in a public forum, and he was scolded severely by Grandfather Bhishma. And Grandfather Bhishma also scolded Dhritarashtra. You're remaining silent through all of this. You're accomplice in the crime of the abominable behavior, and he's going to bring destruction of the entire Kuru dynasty. You'll see. And he left. So Duryodhana decided, instead of putting Krishna in jail, trying to arrest Krishna, he decided to have a big festival, a big feast. And Krishna didn't want to have a big feast prepared by Duryodhana. No, thank you. So he decided instead that he would go to the ashram of Uddhava. When he went to the ashram of Uddhava, it was one of those, an unexpected guest. What's the word in Sanskrit? Starts with an A, atihiya, something like that? Atihiya. What do you do with an unexpected guest? So he came, and Vidura wasn't there, but his wife was there. So she was beside herself. She had love for Krishna as Queen Kunti had love for Krishna, or others had love for Krishna, although he wasn't her father or her son or something. It wasn't that kind of family. She just had love for Krishna as Vidura had love for Krishna. So she went to get something to eat, and all she could find, there was nothing cooked. All she had was bananas. You know the story. So here's a nice banana story painting. Now this is artificial intelligence kind of created design, but it depicts nicely. She was so much in trance. It's Mahabharata. She was so much in trance that she didn't even recognize what she was doing. She gave him the banana peel instead of the banana. And Krishna liked it, and he asked for another one. He gave her another one. She gave another one, gave another one. And then Vidura came home and saw what she was doing, and he scolded her. What are you doing? Give him the banana, not the peel. So Krishna accepted the banana, and then he told Vidura, I liked the peel better than the banana, because the love with which she offered the banana, she was in trance. She didn't even know what she was doing. She was so much charmed by being in this position of service. So the very next day was the scene where Krishna came into the royal assembly in Hastinapur and made his peace appeal. Give them 5 states, no. Give them 5 cities, no. 5 villages. No. There must be war. I won't give them enough land to fit under the head of a pin. There must be war. I can't live on the same planet with those Pandavas. There must be war. It's them or me, or us. And then there's a whole parade of persons that spoke. Bhishma spoke, and another sage spoke, Kanva spoke, this one spoke, that one spoke, all saying the same thing. All saying the same thing. All saying the same thing, condemning Duryodhana. He was getting really agitated. like super agitated, because they were speaking against him, that his decision to have a war instead of having peace. And lo and behold, Vidura stood up, and Vidura said what Vidura had to say. And it was too much. Who are you, the son of a kept mistress, etc., etc., etc. There we see blind Dhritarashtra. He's objecting because he has immense respect for Vidura, and Duryodhana doesn't have respect for anybody. So he told him, get out of town. Whoops, went the wrong direction. Here's the full painting. So he left his bow by the side and decided, there's no more service for me here. I tried and I tried and I tried, and I'm going to go. I could just go be with Krishna, but instead, because I'm contaminated by this unholy association here in Hastinapur, I need to purify myself. So he did what many great personalities do. He went on pilgrimage. And in the course of his going on pilgrimage, he went the southern route that describes the route that he traveled, and all the way down up the west side of India, and he reached Prabhas. When he reached Prabhas, he came to know from visiting there, Krishna had already departed. And not only Krishna departed, the whole Yadu dynasty was finished, because that was Krishna's plan, the fratricidal war in Prabhas. And he was very sad, no seeing of Krishna again. So then he continued. He's now heading back towards Hastinapur, and lo and behold, before Hastinapur, he went all the way to Haridwar, where he met Maitreya. Because when he went to Vrindavan, there, lo and behold, he found Uddhava. And not only he looks like Krishna, but he's, Krishna conscious like anything, and he knows all about Krishna. So he didn't let on, he didn't disclose the bad news that Krishna had departed. He asked questions as if he didn't know. Oh, Uddhava, Haribol. How is Krishna? How is Balaram? How is this one? How is that one? How is everything in Dwarka? And he knew. He just didn't want to say that he knew. He didn't want, it's not a good idea to bring the bearer of bad news. But intuitively, at least, Uddhava knew. So when Vidura started asking about Krishna of Uddhava, he went into trance. He couldn't speak. He was emotionally choked up, and he was nirvikalpa samadhi. He was in complete absorption and remembrance of Krishna. So there's a whole chapter. What I'm going to be reading from is entitled Remembrance of Krishna. So Uddhava's struggled because there's his uncle, like a father for him, figure wise in age and very wise, asking about Krishna, so he wanted to serve him. So many, many words of humility, and then he begins narrating Krishna's pastimes, Krishna in Vrindavan, Krishna out of Vrindavan, because he was not in Vrindavan, but he knew of Krishna in Vrindavan, and then in Mathura, and then Dwarka, and then all of Krishna's pastimes. There's just kind of a preview of Canto 10 in these two chapters of Canto 3, 2 and 3. So I want to read one verse from before he begins his narration. And that's this evening's class. All this was background just to give you a picture of this meeting of the two. Here's the verse. Uddhava thus served the Lord continually from childhood, and in his old age, that attitude of service never slackened, As soon as he was asked about the message of the Lord, he at once remembered all about him. Purport. Transcendental service to the Lord is not mundane. The service attitude of the devotee gradually increases and never becomes slackened. Generally, in old age, a person is allowed retirement from mundane service. But in the transcendental service of the Lord, there's no retirement at all. On the contrary, the service attitude increases more and more with the progress of age. In the transcendental service, there's no satiation, and therefore there's no retirement. Materially, when a man becomes tired by rendering service in his physical body, he's allowed retirement. But in the transcendental service, there's no feeling of fatigue because it is spiritual service and is not on the bodily plane. Service on the bodily plane dwindles as the body grows older, but the spirit is never old, and therefore on the spiritual plane the service is never tiresome. And final paragraph. Uddhava undoubtedly became old, but that does not mean that his spirit became old. His service attitude matured on the transcendental plane, and therefore, as soon as he was questioned by Vidura about Lord Krishna, he at once remembered his Lord by reference to the context. Prabhupada liked that phrase, reference to the context. And forgot himself on the physical plane. That is the sign of pure devotional service to the Lord, as will be explained later. Lakshanam, Bhakti Yogasya, etc., in Lord Kapila's instructions to his mother Devahuti. So this is Canto 3, Chapter 2, and coming attractions in Canto 3 is Kapila Dev's instructions to Devahuti. Particularly, he describes Sankhya, but there's a whole chapter particularly dedicated to devotional service and pure devotional service and the lakshana, the characteristics of pure devotional service. And those characteristics of pure devotional service were Uddhava's. And so although his Vidura is certainly older than him, like in relation to father to son, but Vidura is also quite old. I mean, he's Krishna's age. And when Krishna left, how old was Krishna? 125. No, it was the previous age, but still toward the end of the previous age. He's up there in age. Now, Krishna, his body is spiritual, so he always looked like youthful. We don't know what Uddhava looked like because there's no paintings, nor descriptions that I'm aware of, but here he's old, but not feeling old and not feeling retired from his service to Krishna. So when he's invited into the remembrance of service to Krishna, he's in samadhi. Go ahead, close the curtain. Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundara ki Jai. So I thought of speaking on this particular verse in connection with the theme of the other two verses. We spoke about three topics. Narada, the stages of bhakti, the seed of bhakti, nimitta matram, and then what happens when you get older? What's the service, the instrumental role of the elder person? The instrumental role of the elder person is the same as the younger version. I'm sure you've seen, I thought of adding, but Srila Prabhupada lying in his bed in Vrindavan to his last breath, literally, giving the Bhaktivedanta purports with absolute clarity and acumen and references, and it was realized soul, perfected soul, right up to the very end. And similarly, the description is here regarding Uddhava. And by Krishna's arrangement, all of us are here on a temporary basis, and at some point in time, we're all going to depart. And what's that going to be like? No, it's sobering, but it's also reality. There are a number of Prabhupada disciples, and the number is diminishing. One by one by one. 10 little Indians, 9 little Indians, 8 little Indians, and 7 little Indians, and all the 10 little Indians are going to be gone. And then what? That's a good question. And during those final stages of those remaining 10 little Indians, the remaining disciples of Prabhupada are those that have given their lives in dedicated service to him. What's their service? It's more of the same. The capacity to do things is different, but the principle is the same. And that's the place that I'm speaking from. That's why I selected this particular section, this particular verse. Because, it's not a pleasant thought, but it's reality. You have to look at reality. Reality is we're not going to be here forever. And the position of service doesn't change, and the vitality of service doesn't change. I mean, on a personal note, some years ago, my thought was, we'll go way back, 19, I have to strain my memory, 1972. That's a few years ago, 1972. I remember very clearly undergoing a process. It took about 3 months to contemplate, okay, you wanted to experience, you wanted to assist Prabhupada, you wanted to experience life in an ashram, and you had that experience, and you have contributed to the Hare Krishna movement. That's nice. Now, do you want to go back and continue your college education, become a nice doctor and all that? So I thought, I like what I'm doing. There's nothing about what I'm doing I don't like, and there's lots of doctors out there, not too many Hare Krishna guys around. So let me just continue being a Hare Krishna guy. And probably somewhere along the way I'll meet somebody becoming a doctor, and then they can help them become a Krishna doctor. So that was it. No turning back, no problem. And then going forward in time, just being in the mood of whatever service was required. Sometimes that, sometimes the other thing. But, service, because that's our life. And then, as I was getting older and starting thinking, how long am I going to be able to do this? Zoom, zoom, zoom. And I thought, as long as my health is good, zoom, zoom, zoom. And my health is still good. When people ask, my health is still good. So, in case you're wondering, my health is still good. And I don't have a plan to do something other than what I've been doing. I understand clearly the time will come I won't be able to continue doing this. But as long as Krishna gives me the sufficient health, then I don't have another plan. Let's see how long it lasts. The time will come. I don't know when, but Krishna will let me know for sure. And then in this stage that Uddhava's in, he wanted to go with Krishna, and Krishna gave him some service to do. So he's on his way to do that service. But there's no shortage of his service mood. That's the point of he hadn't lost that. It was not stale or slackened. It was vital. And that vitality brought him back to external consciousness so he could serve Uncle Vidura. And then Vidura pressed his Krishna button, he just went. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. With otherworldly absorption in Krishna thought. Trance-like, a little bit like Vidura's wife. She didn't even know what she was doing. She's giving him banana peels. And then another one. And then another one. It's in the Mahabharata. She was in a trance-like state. When Vidura came and scolded her, "What are you doing?" Oh. So, our absorption, because that's this Krishna Bhakti Bhavita, Krishna Rasa Bhakti Bhavata, the absorption in Krishna Rasa, absorption in. And the more one goes further in Krishna Bhakti Rasa, the more there's absorption in. And that's what's awaiting us. If we're heading in the right direction, that's what's going to happen. Guided by intelligence, and then at a certain point, the guiding by intelligence is Supersoul takes over. So it's not our intelligence, it's very clearly on the spontaneous platform. And it just moves. Krishna Bhakti moves spontaneously without having to think about it. The mind goes to Krishna without having to think, okay, my dear mind, please pay attention to the holy name or to the scripture or to the something. The mind goes spontaneously. And that's depending upon how we apply ourselves in bhakti life now, that's awaiting us in the more mature stage of bhakti. And we're all going to be there at some stage, everybody in the room, without fail, the youngsters and the youth and middle-aged and older folks, and we're all going to be there. So the service emphasis in the purport is, in the verse itself, the attitude of service never slackened. In his old age, that attitude of service never slackened. The shape that it'll take may be different, most likely will be different. But the attitude of service will continue unslackened if we're situated properly. So that stage of life is due to come upon each one of us. And, we, according to what Krishna supplies, we work with what Krishna supplies. Just a little sharing. They have a primary care physician. You all know what that is. So I went to the primary care physician. I said, I want to do a 360 checkup. I don't feel anything's wrong, but if there's something wrong, I'm sure you'll find it. So he did his thing and said, it's all good. Make a little this, but otherwise it's just good. So do a little this and do a little that. Then he made this comment. He said, your lifestyle is really good. Your diet is really good. You've in his words, you finished 3/4 of your life. At 75. This past summer, 75. 3/4 of you got another quarter to go. I said, thank you. And, may the service attitude never slacken. I don't anticipate it will. The shape of it may be different, depending upon circumstances, health being a big one, and other things. So the shape of service may change, but the service attitude doesn't. And then there, as in each position, just a little sharing from our little youth gathering upstairs. There was a whole basket full of questions, written down questions. And one of them was, is it important for those of us, modify the question, those of us that have had received training in Krishna consciousness to some extent in our family life, and there's new people that come, is it important to have a mix of the people that haven't and people that have? Yeah, it's the service. The people that have need to have good manners, good behavior, good way of communicating so people feel encouraged, not the opposite. And slowly help. So that's something we can all do. Whatever our position is, it's the same as the nimitta matram idea. Receive and give. You can't give what we haven't received. So have your receiver on, and adjust the tuning so you're receiving maximum, and then the receiving indication. The indicator is it's being applied. It goes in and then it comes out. It's how you live the lifestyle, and some of the modifications of speech and behavior are transformed by that which went inside. And then you live your life in an exemplary way. That's an ideal person who was hearing nicely. And then, repeat and continue. And then do it again and mature in your Krishna bhakti, so that when you come to the stage, the senior citizen stage, you have something, there's value of that senior citizen Vaishnava for the rest of society. And it's not that you have to run around and do stuff. You can run around and do stuff, or not run around and do stuff, but be available as a source of wisdom if you have it. If you don't have it, then it can be a source of something else. But if you have it, then you can give it. So younger age, receive and give. And then in the very mature stage, continue giving and continue giving, continue giving, just as Uddhava is doing. And all of us will have some opportunity to do in one way or another way. Some opportunity to give to others, having received, if according to how well we've received what's been offered to us. And there's more to say, but that's essentially the topic I wanted to share this evening. And let's see, my experience has been of late, better to speak less and leave more time for questions and answers. So that's what I'm planning to do just now. We're going to wind it up and see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. A little bit of a controversial, in one sense, question. How do you deal with a society that tends to undermine, or not undermine, but disregard wisdom or the experience of older devotees? And in one sense, at times it becomes difficult for older devotees to maintain service within the society. And so, what things, do you do when you encounter things like this? What would you recommend?
Well, my answer to a question like this is it depends. And then a principle that doesn't vary, although circumstance varies, and so therefore it depends, but purity is the force. And as you've heard me say probably 100 times, here's 101. If Prabhupada was in this circumstance, would it get worse, stay the same, or get better? And if it gets better, in my situation, it's not getting better, it's whoever is staying the same or getting worse. What's the difference? And a big difference is purity. So something that I can do, something that you can do, or any one of us can do, meeting circumstance like you just described, is strive for purity. Because purity is the force. Because the purity was there in our founder Acharya. He was able to lift persons. Now, it's not that there were persons who resented him. There were persons that resented him. Persons that were envious of him. Persons that undermined him. Persons, etc., etc., etc. Outside of the devotee community and inside the devotee community. There was a time, here's a for example, there was a time when Prabhupada said he had his third heart attack, 2 on the boat and 1 in New York. And after the one in New York, he was in the Jersey Shore and healing, and they invited him to a nice place in California because he wanted to come for Rath Yatra, etc., etc., etc. So he was then explaining, I don't know how long I'm going to be with you. And there was giving some instructions to them how to carry on in his physical absence. So someone made a mistake. They said, in your physical absence, can we invite one of your godbrothers to come here and take guidance from them? And Prabhupada was silent. The description is his face became very sad and dark, and almost like in a crying mood. If someone comes and changes even one thing, then it's all that I have done and have given to you will be finished. So whatever his fledgling young devotees could do, he wanted them to do according to the instructions he had given. Now, later it was violated for reasons. Someone thought that something, and they went somewhere to do something, tried to bring that someone or someone's plural into ISKCON, giving advice to, etc., etc. And it became a mess, exactly as Prabhupada said. So now back to your question, what do? Seek purity. Because with purity, then things can change. Without purity, then things will either stay the same or get worse. And your question has everything to do with a question I have, which is, what's the Hare Krishna movement going to be in 50 years? Is there a tendency to change? And change on what basis? What's the foundation for change? It's not based on purity or based on, commonly it's not based on purity. So what's the Hare Krishna movement going to be in 50 years? Following your question, there's this question. There's what you're experiencing or someone may be experiencing, accepting the wisdom of those who are experienced, then what's going to happen? There'll be the properties will be here, the books will be here, and assets will be here. But what's going to be inside these four walls? What's the life of a Hare Krishna neophyte coming in going to be like 50 years from now? And what to do today to help make sure that it remains intact. At least preserve what I've given you, is in Prabhupada's words. But it's not just preserve, it's growing. And there's different levels of persons there's the completely new people coming in. This is one of those topics. And then there's the people that have been around for a little while, and the people that are around for a little while may have a quality like you just described. They don't have respect. Or the worst, they have disrespect. If it doesn't match their view, there's disrespect. And then it becomes partyism and becomes, unpleasant. And it happens. It's going on. It is going on. And where is it going with something like that? If something fundamental, like Prabhupada said, when you change one thing, the whole thing, everything I've given you will be spoiled. It's not like overnight spoiled, but it becomes spoiled. So my answer to your question is purity is the force. Books are the basis. Preaching is the essence. Utility, the principle. So it starts with the you and I and those that have similar concerns. That not necessarily that you or I or some other persons are the wise ones that need to be respected, but wisdom needs to be respected. Experience needs to be respected. Therefore, we're going to have a little seminar on the importance of respect. And unto whom should respect be given? Is it a principle to live by? And is it important for a Vaishnava or Vaishnava community to live by the principles of respect according to standards that are given to us? And if we don't do that, then what is it? It's chaos. It's the material life. Painted pink. I'm chuckling because I visited the Potomac Temple, and if those of you that have visited the Potomac Temple, the neighborhood is like posh neighborhood, like really rich people with big, not just homes, but mansions, and opulence like anything. So I said to Ananda Vrindavan, you must agitate the heck out of the people right in the middle of their whole kingdom. You got the Hare Krishna temple. She said, well, it looks like a castle, so it fits in. And she said, we didn't paint it pink. Very thoughtful. In other words, some temples have done things like that in the past, made nice saffron colored temple. She's a smart lady, and so if we act with proper decorum and live in a manner or carry ourselves in a manner that's character-based, then we can be respected and do things that are respectable in respected communities. And is everyone going to respect? Not everyone's going to respect. But character or purity garners respect from those that are of persons of spiritual seeking persons. So that's my answer to your question, long-winded answer to your. It's just an important question going forward in time. Other discussions? Yeah, Mukunda.
Thank you, Maharaj. I've observed, this is my own point of view, so it could be wrong.
Mukunda Uvacha.
When I look at some of the senior devotees in my life, I've seen that some of them, maybe many of them, have like a turning point where maybe they go through something that's very, like they go through like some kind of crisis.
Yeah.
Some very hard circumstance.
Yeah.
And it seems like what comes out on the other end is more often than not, like some walls maybe are put up. Maybe they're like secluding themselves a little bit more, but also simultaneously going deeper in their personal relationship with Krishna, but very like closed off to the world of the
Vaishnav Sangha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, as we're contemplating going into old age and what that trajectory looks like, what are your thoughts on that kind of journey? Like I see it, I think Bhaktivedanta Maharaj did a seminar, Crisis of Faith. I don't know, Maharaj, if you've heard that.
I haven't.
Yeah, it's so he speaks kind of to this point that every devotee will at some point or another go through like a life-altering kind of point, and how they...
Well, first of all, I have enormous regard for him. He is brilliant. Besides, he's well-read, and he's a very deep thinker person, and he's worthy of everyone's respect, in my opinion. So I haven't read or heard on that topic. I know that he spoke on it. I didn't go there. So I can't, touch on some of the points that he brought up. But it's not always that it happens, but it's certainly, it's a principle, and the principle is Krishna's testing. Somebody in this audience sent me a little note about when they see devotees that have been devotees for some time and they have a crisis, health, or cancer, or something, how to take it because their prarabdha karma is gone. So so it's Krishna doesn't have to do anything, but Krishna may give us an opportunity to take deeper shelter of him and see the happiness is not in this world. The happiness is not your physical condition or your monetary condition or your financial condition or something. That's not what happiness is. And when Krishna takes it away, he says, Hari, there's verses in the Bhagavatam, plus his name means he takes away. When he shows his special kindness, he takes stuff away. That's our false shelters, leaving us with nothing but his shelter. Now, is someone going to take his shelter or not? That's, the question from Krishna to us. And it's a relationship. Bhakti rasa is a relationship of rasa with Krishna. What's that rasa? If it's on my terms, then that's not bhakti rasa. And if it's on Krishna's terms, then at least the potential is I can accept Krishna's terms. That's one of those little sayings. When you surrender to Krishna, please understand, it's on his terms. Because otherwise it's not surrender. If you surrender with this condition, that condition, then it's business. So if Krishna turns you upside down and holds you by the heels and shakes you, or the crisis of faith, then what's your relationship with Krishna like anyways? So it's good. It's a relationship with Krishna, opportunity. Now I don't know what Bhaktivedanta Maharaj said, I'm sure it was very thoughtful, and from many different angles and perspectives and scriptural references, and that's the kind of person he is. Very comprehensive, very, very wise person. There's others that are similarly very wise. It's not that if there's a calamity or crisis or some misfortune or something life-changing, that the result has to be seclusion or isolation. That's an option. And go more internal, that's an option. And by going more internal, that's receiving, and then what are you going to do once you've received more? You know, our life as Vaishnavas is the attitude of service that never slackens. So service can be redirected, and that's fine. But there has to be a giving, and the giving is in the association of devotees. So the circle may look different, but some circle that there's the giving. And at least in the circle that you move in, to inspire persons to go in the direction of higher consciousness, and, you know, giving that higher consciousness opportunity to others, because that's what persons in higher consciousness do. Sarve sukhino bhavantu. Others should be happy. That's a sign of an elevated soul. Now I'm curious, you know, along with so many other things that I'd like to do, and I'm going to want to put that on my list of things to do, is hear his thoughtful, how many part seminar?
Well, he gave a talk. J. Jagannath Prabhu organized for him to speak to a group of us on this topic, so that's how I heard it, but I'm not sure how many parts he did originally.
I see, okay. I'll just ask him.
He did it for Sannyasi Maharaj, it's a two-part seminar.
Two-part seminar. That's reasonable. Okay. There's a hand up.
Maharaj, on the flip side of Subal Prabhu's question, I also see that there's a lot of room for those of us who are in middle or older ages to create room for the younger generation's wisdom and ability to sometimes be more adventurous than us. And so both...
Whoa. Say that again? Wisdom can be dangerous?
No. There's also wisdom in those who are younger than us. And
oh, yeah.
Sometimes there's not so much room within ISKCON for those who are younger than us.
That's something else. His point is, I'm interrupting. You're looking at another side of his question, but be responsive to what his question is. His question is not blocking the space for younger generation people to exert and display their wisdom. But supposing there's some younger generation person that fundamentally disrespects wisdom, that's the point.
Yeah, I'm not countering his point, I'm just saying, I'm making an observation that both the respect for the wisdom of, you know, those who are older, as well as there's a lot, I find there's further room for growth in our ability to allow those who are younger and perhaps more relatable within our society of devotees to go out on a limb and make mistakes, just like those of us who might be older.
Seated over here is Nandimukhi. You know Nandimukhi? You should get to know her. She's a nice devotee. She did some little research and came up with something that I didn't know, because I've been saying something wrongly for quite some time. The Gita values topic, it turns out it was written, an article of how it came about was written by one of Vrajabihari's consultants at MIT. What's her name? The consultant. The mediation consultant, that person that Vrajabihari was learning from. You can't remember. Huh? Mary Rowe? Something like that. So, she wrote an article for MIT of how this thing came about. And the person in the room that distilled it down to the 6 Gita values was Vrajabihari and Vrindavan's son. No, the wisdom came from the youngster, or the younger generation person, and everyone was like, "That's good." So it doesn't. Wisdom certainly can come from younger generation people. Some can be a little goofy, and some can be very wise. But we want wisdom. We want wisdom, wherever it's coming from. And the older generation persons accepted the wisdom, and now it's the standard thing, the 6 Gita values. So, as one example, for example, there's so many other examples. There is another side. I mean, you look at the balance thing. I don't want to get into it, but there's some persons that are flippant in disrespect because they're right. And it doesn't matter who their authority is. It doesn't matter who their authority is. It could be this one, it could be that one, it could be the other one. If it doesn't agree with their view, they're flippant. They're overtly disrespectful. There's something wrong with this person, this authority group, including their spiritual masters, plural. That's hurtful for the future of the Hare Krishna movement. That's the point. Okay, who's got the microphone? Who wants the microphone? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question on, well, I've noticed that a lot of acharyas like Prabhupada, through time, they keep the principle, but they change the details based off of the time, place, circumstance.
Yeah.
Like,
To some degree, yeah.
to some degree, for example, like Prabhupada, the number of rounds, or
There's others that are, okay.
yeah, like those type of examples.
Okay.
So I've seen that, or however you want to say this, but but then I also see like in preaching nowadays, there's like everyone has a different style of preaching. So
Yeah, that's good.
that they're like keeping the principles, but at the same time relating to the audience.
Okay. Well, diversity is beautiful. It'd be pretty boring if it's all the same, wouldn't it? But it's not, don't worry about it, it won't be all the same. Diversity is part of life. And respect diversity. Respect diversity. As long as it's in alignment with principle. So, who has the entitlement? The Acharya has the entitlement. What makes the Acharya that has the entitlement to adjust details while maintaining principle? How do you hook somebody up, and is this an acharya that can do like that? That's a nice question. So the fidelity with the disciplic succession is intact and vibrant and vital and strong and self-evident. Always achar and prachar in alignment with the disciplic succession. And then the details can be adjusted. That such a person is an acharya that can adjust detail.
Okay, so only those who are in the...
They have the entitlement and others don't.
Okay, so what does that mean? Like only, does that mean like initiated people, or like all of, like a specific person is named and then that person?
Well, it's not just something they got, magic wand hit their head and they became the acharya. It's a character evaluation, the acharya-like character. Then with that comes the capacity to receive indication from Krishna that details adjusted this way or that way, it's just fine. I mean, were you here on Friday evening?
Yeah.
Yeah. On Friday evening, I gave an example of this. The person who adjusted was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Mataji, could you, that's good, you lean, the one that's directly in front of you, you're moving this way, that way. I'm trying to get eye contact with the lady that's asking the question. Your head keeps moving. So I could stand up, I guess that's one solution. Thank you very much. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Friday evening. From childhood, from 16, Rupa Goswami Ki Jai. Commentaries on his very, very elevated writings when he was 16 and the rest of his life, Rupa Goswami Ki Jai. He wrote a book on the 9 stages of bhakti in the line of Rupa Goswami. Loyal, realized, perfect person. And then, in his own commentary on the Bhagavatam, he writes there's not 9, there's 14. Audacity, how could he do something like that? All he did was, he just expanded, of the 9, some items became more detailed. So it's not just 9, it's now 14. But it's just an expanding of the detail, it becomes its own separate item. Whereas he wrote a book that says those same items that became expanded were a subset of one of the 9. It's a different way of seeing it. So, did he have the credential? He had the credential. He demonstrated it from early in his life and throughout his life. Completely loyal to the previous acharyas and made some adjustment. It had become like a major, foundation of his teachings, but he wrote it. He could stand by it, and there's a reason for it. It's just his own, thumbprint on the topic, along with being completely faithful to Rupa Goswami, which he was. That's a credential. Since such a person can adjust detail, and we don't have a problem with it. And there's other people that adjust details. They don't have the credential. And for sure and certain, some principle is going to slip through the cracks. So we're careful. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was
that
was the first part where it was like who is eligible to change those type of things, but then practically, like for example, if I'm like teaching someone, like preaching to someone, how would I know that I'm what's the balance between relating to them? So like I've seen devotees that like dress like, like not in a sari and a dhoti and things like that, which seems fine, but like how do I know I am sticking to the principles and then I'm not like deviating from that? Like how do we distinguish between what's changeable when preaching versus what's not?
Okay. I think I got it. Let me say it back. I'm not an acharya, I'm this Prabhu, and I'm doing the work of the acharya on their behalf, and I have this circumstance, and I want some guidance, please, on is it okay for me, in principle, to modify a little bit the presentation without changing the principle, but so it matches the audience? And the answer is yes. We do it anyways. But it's quite natural. And sometimes you're going to get it right, sometimes you're not going to get it right because you're not a perfect person. I mean, just assuming you're not a perfect person. So you're going to sometimes not get it right. But you stay faithful, aligned with the principle that if there's anything that I can give of value to this other person, it's maintaining the purity of the message. But I want to make it, digestible to the audience. Here's a for example. For example, speaking to somebody who is a faithful Christian about killing animals. Now, Prabhupada had a conversation with a cardinal in France. You know that interview? Cardinal Daniel. It's transcribed and it's also a video. Yogeshwar was the translator. And Prabhupada is a little confrontational. Not terribly, but a little confrontational. He's a high up there, cardinal in the Catholic Church. How can you condone killing animals? Or, killing your mother? How can you condone killing your mother? And the answer he got was, animals have no soul. So it's not killing. Ooh. On what basis do you say animals have no soul? So that was the nature of their discussion. It was a little... supposing the cardinal said, yeah, you're right. Is he going to change the Catholic Church? Maybe not. But, maybe he could become at least, ahimsa, oriented. So I had a personal experience traveling in Southwest Airlines. Here's a little hint. In Southwest Airlines, they don't assign seats. You can sit wherever there's an open seat. Generally, I like an aisle seat, and generally the seat next to me stays open because people don't want to sit next to a Hare Krishna guy. Shh, don't tell everybody. But so I often have, the elbow room, in Southwest Airlines. But one time, I was traveling from New York City to somewhere, and there were lots of empty seats, and a girl sat right next to me and opened up her Bible. And I thought, okay, I know it's coming. I'm going to get converted or, saved. She's going to save me. She didn't do that. And, but it was, in the course of time, she started a conversation, and I can't remember how it began, but it got to the topic of animal. And thou shalt not kill, and what do you think about that? And then she knew the Bible. She referred to this passage, that passage, the other passage, where it's okay, even if you're a meat eater, or even if you're not pure, you can be a Christian. So I gave her, this isn't something I heard from Prabhupada, I just said, supposing Christ is holding a lamb in his arms, and you say, can I have that lamb? I'd like to kill him and eat him. What's Christ going to say? Think about it. If you have other options, if you have no options, the Sea of Galilee and the fish and all of that, if you have no other options, okay. But when you have options, think about it. Ask Christ in your prayers. You ask Him, is it okay? Can I have that lamb and cut his throat and cook him up? And is it okay? Could be Christ is compassionate. My sense is he's not going to say it's okay, but you're a follower of Christ. So it was a creative way of helping this young lady she wasn't belligerent, but she was kind of stuck and finding justification, this section, that section from the Bible. But that's just an example of a creative way of saying something that I didn't change the principle. The way in which I spoke it was a little different than I ever have done in the past or since then. But it seemed to suit the situation, to help her be more thoughtful about what she was doing thoughtlessly or mindlessly, with some sense of justification from the scripture that she was holding in her hand. So, get creative, that's okay. Stay with the principle to make it relevant, relatable to the person to whom you're speaking, without changing the principle. It's 10 minutes before 8. Any burning questions out here? Ananta Shesh got a burning question. Huh? You have seen? 3. Can you pick the top one of the 3? Try.
On the topic of acting as an instrument.
And it's an instrument, okay.
Specifically at the workplace. In the afternoon, you were saying, we perform our work in such a way that others will be attracted to Krishna. My question is, my doubt in my head is that I'm doing my work and then the instrument part is attracting someone else to Krishna. That is how I'm behaving.
Yes, it's not you, it's the Bhakti Devi is attracting, yes.
Can the work itself be done? What's my consciousness where the work is, what I'm doing itself, I'm thinking I'm an instrument of Krishna.
It depends on the work. Because sometimes it's, it's not the instrument of Krishna work.
So I want to take an example. The easiest one was what Vrindarani does. She's an investment advisor. It's not against any scriptural principle.
Fine.
So in that case, how can anybody who's
what she can, it depends upon the relationship, but she could indicate by asking, one of the best ways to teach is ask questions. So what's it?
I want to go back to the verse. The question started from the verse from Bhagavad Gita, which
yes, correct, yes, yes.
So Arjuna was performing his occupational duty of fighting.
Yes.
And that was his work.
Yes.
So when I take this example of any work that we might do, it is like fighting. So just doing that, I'm an instrument, without me having to worry about whether others are attracted to Krishna consciousness.
That's right. You can do like that, but you can also do like the other. In addition to what you just said, you can do the other also.
I understand how to do the other also, but my doubt is how to maintain the consciousness. So,
the battery is freaking out. So you have to change batteries.
Yes, I understand the other part, but my doubt is about how to be an instrument just doing the work that I'm doing.
Well, you can't separate consciousness from work, because without consciousness there's no work. Consciousness is needed for work. So if you embed it in the work as the consciousness of the worker, And so you carry that consciousness, and that's carrying bhakti into the work itself, as well as your character and the words that you speak. Do it for Krishna consciousness. Now, there's some things we can't do for Krishna, like butcher or something. Some things are just not acceptable. But something that is acceptable, then you do it for Krishna consciousness. And you don't need to separate them. The work becomes bhakti, or detached work minimally, but bhakti work beyond detached work. I'd like to, can we end? It's time to end. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna devotees, if you could kindly settle down for 5 minutes, we have just a short announcement. Before I go there, someone's Lexus is blocking the trash area. The nameplate is ending 7241. Kindly move away. Move that out of that area. Okay. We would like to launch His Holiness Rupa Swami Maharaj's new audio website for the pleasure of Guru Maharaj and for all the devotees. So if you could kindly settle down maybe 5 minutes, please. So we used to have Guru Maharaj, if you desire.
What? What?
You may not need to be here. I just.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's a polite way to show him the door, right? I got it.
I'm sorry. We used to have the old website, and there was some gap. After that, we wanted to create this new website. Paramarupa Prabhu is behind this website. He's in India, so I'm just standing here on behalf of Prabhu. He has actually put together a few slides, and we just wanted to show you the demo, how this works. So this new website called ramapadaswamiaudio.com, we want it to be like the most comprehensive one place where we can have the audio, video, and visuals. Everything we would be able to access from one place. If we can move to the next slide. So we wanted to bring back all the old audio site features and add so much more so that our hearing from Guru Maharaj is so much more easy, efficient, and much more traceable. Can we move on to the next slide? Okay, so the vision is, Paramarupa Prabhu put together this sect, searchability, efficiency, control, and traceability. So we have the searchability option with the advanced search. If you can move to the next slide. So advanced search gives us an opportunity for search, and then create your own playlist option that gives us a control. What do we want to do? Which tracks we choose to listen? And then the pre-populator playlist is something Paramarupa Prabhu, along with more than 15-20 devotees, had been working hard for the last 2+ months to put together, where it's so much easier to trace the lectures and in a very efficient manner, and it can remember where we were pausing so we can just get back to that place. Can we move to the next slide, Prabhu? So the advanced search, if we could go, we can just start typing just few letters, and it would just come. Ramaraghu Prabhu is controlling there, so he's just saying SB, and it starts pulling all the lectures with that. And then if we go to the next slide, yeah, that's basically the searchability. We can quickly navigate to whichever track we want, just with a one simple, just typing the letters. And if we go to the next one, which are create your own playlist. So here we can go to whichever Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, multiple things. You can just go to the track and just say, add it to the playlist. So we have the control, what kind of a tracks we want in a particular playlist. But the only problem with this is there is no memory. Like we start hearing and let's say we stop at 23 minutes and we just forget. Even the playlist, we won't be able to go back and access to that. So if we can go to the next one, which is the pre-populated. This is where all these devotees had been putting together, bringing all the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have listed them based on as of now we have Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and the venues. Like you could go to Gita Nagari, and then this particular year, or Naperville in 2014, Maharaj was here in April. I want to go and listen to that particular series. We would be able to go to that. Yeah, US and India, and all the places. And Nityan Pran Prabhu was saying, since COVID, 3,650 lectures. So this way, we will have much better traceability of that, and we would be able to go to that particular thing. We can move on. And then in terms of the efficiency of the website itself, we have the smart filtering options where we can start typing just a few letters and it can start filtering. And the other feature with this is memory. It just remembers, like let's say I wanted to hear Srimad Bhagavatam 2nd canto, 3rd chapter, some verse. I heard some part and then there is a reference. I want to go back to the 3rd canto and hear that. And then something else in 7th canto. So it would remember wherever each lecture is taught and it can go back. And the other feature with that is, let us say we are driving to work, we just hear up to this point. And when we are coming back on that particular device, it remembers where we stopped. We would be able to play right from there. And then we can have the progress control and looping and shuffle and speed control. All of these features can add the efficiency. Yeah. And then the challenge is, like, let's say I want to hear the initiation lectures at Gita Nagari. And then what do? If we go to the special events, in pre-populated lists, we would go to the special events and then go to the initiation lectures. And then we further choose to Gita Nagari. Starts typing Gita and then it would just populate the things. So it's so much more easier. So Paramaru Prabhu's and the whole team's request is, devotees, if you can start using this website and provide the feedback, what is working great and what is something you would like to see in this, so we would be able to put that. Yeah, so the next steps would be so bringing this audio site to the current status, whatever is existing, and then be a conduit for connecting for Maharaj. Like it would make our job much more easier. And we want to establish like a wholesome system where we don't miss out on any recordings. Prabhu is planning to put like everything, special events, and he is planning for a section where like a personal reflections, wherever Guru Maharaj speaks, as we were hearing today, it would just go to that section. I'm sorry, just last point. Sorry for linking. Yeah. So we want to process all lectures and then be able to put that and make it like a one-stop solution where we can have the links for YouTube playlists and everything. And in the end, we'd like to acknowledge Uma Mataji for overall coordination of the website, and then Vinaya Mataji, she is the main person behind overall original website created and then troubleshooting. And then the playlist creation, as I was telling, last 2 months devotees have been working. Ananda Prabhu, Harivamsha Prabhu, Kalindi Mataji, Kasturi Manjari Mataji, Nitish Prabhu, Prabhavati Gopi Mataji, Ramaraghav Prabhu, Premavardhan Prabhu, Ranga Mataji, Sabita Mataji, Subudhi Rai Prabhu, Sucharita Mataji, Swarupa Siddhi Prabhu, and then Paramrup Prabhu had been like up until midnight and then troubleshooting and then taking care of this whole thing. So we'd like to thank this whole team for putting together, and ardent request for all of you to start using it. Thank you so much. And it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. Thank you. Hare Krishna.